for having registered to our first webinar. My name is Isaura Lopes Ramos. I'm working for CTA, and where I'm coordinating the capacity development component of the GODAN Action Project. The first webinar, as I say, I will introduce the panelists. So we have André Laperrière, that is the Executive Director of GODAN. Afterwards, we have as well Suchith Anand, that is working as well for GODAN in terms of capacity development. And just some practical information before we start with the presentation of André. I would like to inform you all that the webinar is recorded, so that also people that could not attend afterwards will have they can listen the presentation together with the materials that will be uploaded in the platform. If you wanted to ask afterwards, after the free presentation, we're going to try to keep it short. We'll open the floor. So the webinar in total will last 1 hour. And if you want to do any question, if you have any question, you just can write in the chat. And afterwards, we'll open the floor. So I will pass the floor to our first speaker, that is André Laperrière from GODAN.
I was just thanking you and thanking everybody for attending this first GODAN seminar, web seminar, actually, because it's a great opportunity for us to share a little bit with you, especially those less familiar with GODAN, as to who we are, what we do, and hopefully for you to get involved and contribute to this movement that we represent. I have prepared for you a little presentation that I would like to share, and that I hope summarizes a little bit of what is happening in the world of GODAN as we speak. So I'm going to start just now. GODAN is a creation that came from an idea in 2013 during a G7 meeting, where one of the issues that was discussed was the world demographic, climate change, and its consequences on overall food security. Acknowledging the fact that within 2050, that's in 1 generation from now or so, unless the world does something different, we're likely to face a very severe food security problem. If only to consider that by then the world will have to produce about 60% more food than it is doing now. Yet we're in a period where climate change is harming the current production as it is. Up to 90% of the fresh water available in many countries already goes to agriculture, so it's difficult to increase further, and fish stocks are 75 to 85% fully or overexploited. So we have to find new ways to do things. So that was the concept, and behind this was the idea that those that have best practices, those that have data, information, knowledge about ways to do things, ways to innovate, should share it with others. And what you see now on the screen is some of the members that we have now. We're almost 500 partners from all around the world. I'm sorry I couldn't fit them all on that screen. But as you may see, there's a wide variety of people that have joined this movement. There are countries, there are international organizations, NGOs, private companies. I used to say anything from IBM to Kellogg, from genomes to satellites, from Argentina to Australia. So that's part of the excitement here, because each of these organizations have joined because they pledge to share, to work with others into learning new ways to innovate, to be more productive for a world that is better fed and more prosperous. Visually speaking, that's basically where our partners are. As you can see, we're pretty well all over the world now. So why GODAN? I just mentioned it because of the importance of demographics. We're going to be 50% more people within a little more than 1 generation from now, yet sharing the same resources, the same water, the same atmosphere that we have, while the world's population is tripling, or has tripled since I was born, actually. Will have tripled. And climate change, as I mentioned, is preventing us from even maintaining the current production level. So going beyond is a double challenge. What helps us, though, is technology. Technology has gone giant leaps in the last decade or two, for instance. And not only in giving us the possibility to share data, to share information from anywhere in the world to just about anywhere in a split second, but also to generate a whole lot of information in the form of data that can be transferred, compiled, transformed, and processed in ways that would serve not just the farmers, but the consumers alike. So that's why GODAN came up. And the acknowledgement of the importance of sharing knowledge and data came from many different sectors that are members of GODAN. But these quotes that you have here are an illustration of some of the statements that were made last September during our first GODAN summit in New York City, where you had Sanjeev from basically civil society, Minister Beth from Kenya, Mrs. Hall, one of the top people from Syngenta, all of which, be it government, private sector, or civil society, acknowledge the importance of data, and especially open data that is fair, accessible, meaningful, and that is put to use as so important to bring progress to the world. This is just an example of what happened open data and after open data. This is an example of satellite imagery, which is free now. It's one of the many sets of satellite imagery. This one that comes from the US is from USGS EROS, which is a center that processes US satellite imagery. Up to 2009, if you wanted to get satellite images coming from that network, you'd have to pay around $400 per image, as a result of which the downloads or the requests were around 40 to 50 per day. Now they're above 5,000. So as you can see, once you give access to data, people want it, and they see the benefits from it. So as you can see now, just for EROS, they estimate that the benefits of people using the data coming from these satellites represents around $1.7 billion a year in the US and around $400 million for the rest of the world. So, and that's just for this set of satellites, and not counting the many other sets that came from Europe and other parts of the world. There are other ways also to use satellite imagery. One of the many forms of open data, and that's another example from South Africa this time, where the initial use of the satellite pictures was to try to reduce water consumption. So what you see there is pictures of a picture of part of the South African territory, where the colors indicate the quality of the biomass there, so the quality of the soil, so which is very good for precision agriculture because it tells the farmers where they need to use fertilizer and where they don't, where they need to use water and where they don't. So as a result of this small project that they started over there, they managed to reduce water consumption by 10%, which one may say is not that much, but when you realize that at the same time they irrigate 30% more land than they used to, so it's an incredible gain in terms of efficiency and reduction of costs. So that's one of the benefits that you can get. This one is also, I'm sorry, I'm just coming back from a satellite imagery seminar, so that's why maybe there's a bit of an accent on this. These stripes represent passages of a satellite above Australia, where they gave, thanks to CSIRO, one of our partners, the Australian government, gave free access to satellite imagery on the entire territory of Australia. And they did that not only in real time, but also historically speaking. So these layers that you see piled up there for each little square of territory represent historical data. So this way they figured that looking at the trends from the past to the present using this data, they're much better in terms of predicting which areas in their country is likely to be subjected to floods or to drought, which was the objective of that very project. So, and again, you can see these layers representing historical data. But that's just one angle. Other ways to see other uses of satellite imagery to keep this theme. can be seen here, because we work not just with technicians, satellite operators, but we work with governments also, helping them develop policies that are more conducive to sharing data, but also to generate better policies for their environment. What you can see here is a small part of Iowa, one of the states in the United States, where you can see basically what happened to the crops between 2000 and 2012. What you see in the first picture in the upper left is a picture that was taken in 2000. And as per the legend, you can see that there's a variety of different crops, the yellow being corn, but also you have soya beans and all kinds of other things, which they were using in a rotation basis, which is the best way actually to harvest your soils. So that's the way it continued in 2001, 2002, 3, 4, 5, until in 2006 the government came up with a policy to encourage the use of corn for the production of ethanol in the attempt to gain energetic independence or greater independence. So what you see is in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10 is more and more corn and less soybeans and other cultures. So they were gradually turning into some form of monoculture until in 2011 the policy was abolished, and then they returned in 2012 and so on to rotation agriculture. So it's one of the ways to show that data can allow you to visualize the impact of your policies and therefore be in a better position to make better policies. That's true for governments, but it's also true for farmers, it's true for private sector, for those that you saw quoted from the summit, for instance. Now, this was satellite imagery that I showed you earlier in terms of data integration, but really what we're encouraging is not just data from satellite, but from every possible source. That's what this picture tries to represent. You have the layers representing historical data, but you also have data coming not just from satellites, but from sensors, from surveys, from different types of equipment. Because when you combine different sources of data together, you cross-check one vis-a-vis the other. So the quality of the data that you get is much more complete and much more accurate. So that in turn allows you as a manager, as a government, as a farmer to better forecast what's likely to happen and therefore prevent catastrophes and make the maximum out of the land that you have. Now, GODAN, we interface with a lot of different groups from research, government, private sector, etc. These are some of the interfaces that we have. Starting from the bottom, data, of course, I expanded quite a bit on it, but we have other things. We're doing publications, such as the Ag Sector Package, which is a proposed roadmap that we've established in discussion with a number of governments to help those that are trying to establish an open data policy in agriculture towards enhancing it, improving productivity in agriculture. So it's a roadmap, it's tools that we're providing them to help. The GACS is a multi-phase dictionary, if you will, of agriculture-related terms, compiling dictionaries from among the largest depositories in the world, I would say, in terms of agriculture, namely from USDA, FAO, and others. So it provides for equivalency in terms and therefore a better interconnectivity between different sources of data. SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, you might have heard about those. We're very much involved in that, especially in SDG 2, which has a direct bearing on agriculture and hunger. Nutrition, GODAN stands for Open Data for Agriculture and Nutrition, because our goal is not just to have people benefit from more food, but from better food, because as we know, there are some countries where people don't feel hungry, but yet they're malnourished because of poor nutrition habits. So we're trying to deal with that. And then we have a number of work groups that specialize on things that they are especially interested in, be it rice, soil, ag data, etc. And generally they're groups from different countries, like recently we have groups starting on soil and rice with representatives from Japan, China, India. We have similar groups in Latin America or in Africa, so these guys are working hard and trying to advance science and practices in these different fields. And finally, IGAD, RDA, or GRA, these are practical, hands-on, research-oriented groups that we're working very closely with the desire, the goal to bring research data, research knowledge in the hands of the users so that everybody can benefit. So I hope this gives you a little bit of an idea of what GODAN is all about. If you want to know more about it, please go to our website, godan.info. If you're an organization and you wish to join as a partner, we're free. And there's lots of interesting stuff happening, so you just go to info/partners. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, André, for this presentation. I will also present you something regarding, before I pass the floor to Suchith, regarding actually all this process that is related to capacity development and what we want to do.
Thank you.
Okay. So I will start to actually, first of all, I would like to underline the fact that this is our first webinar. So it's going to be more a generic overview on GODAN Action Project, and capacity development. Our intention is to do one webinar per month, while the others will be more practical and on specific thematics, such, for instance, whether data or, for instance, practical use of data for agriculture and nutrition. And we would like also to hear from you which kind of topics you would like to be addressed in the upcoming webinar. So afterwards we'll have a survey. You can share it as well, your ideas during the Q&A session, indicating one or more topics that you would like to address in the following webinars. Just a very short, I don't want to talk a lot, and basically afterwards leave the floor to you. Just to give an overview, GODAN Action, it's a project that is launched by the UK Department for International Development, and the idea is to really diversify and build in the capacity of potential stakeholders to engage with open data. We have three different focal areas. One is regarding standards, and it's related to enhancing data standards and promoting best practice in agriculture. The other one is related to research and improving tools and methods for evaluation. And the third one is capacity or capacity building, hence the mission to diversify open data users. Our partners, you might have seen before, this is a partnership composed by different members such as Bible University, FAO, STA, and Portal, and so forth. In terms of capacity development, I wanted to show you the approach that we started last year. Our project, and specifically the capacity development component, started with an assessment of the existing needs in open data, with a special focus on agriculture and nutrition domain. What we have been doing, it was reviewing the trainings and courses and products in the field of open data. This helped us to provide with a snapshot of existing capacities and training resources in the field of open data. And specifically, we wanted to understand where were the gaps in data, and where these gaps will really hinder the full engagement of end users. So we really tried to see what is in terms of a panorama, in terms of capacity building of courses. We did the initial research, started via internet. We developed a database with the existing training courses. And this mapping exercise that I will also share afterwards with you was compiled last summer between GODAN members, GODAN Action Partners, and other international stakeholders at national and international level. To summarize, this first mapping, we identified around 30 organizations doing trainings on open data, and where 13 members organizations were within GODAN, 19 outside GODAN. And we basically realized that most training were provided face-to-face, followed by the online approach. We also see that the trainings that are provided by different organizations were mostly on open data courses, but as well on open data, accessing open data, using, visualizing, and manipulating open data. At the same time, we developed a questionnaire to assess the needs of users in open data. And this survey was distributed in the space of 3 months as well. We reached around 250 participants from individuals worldwide, from diverse professional backgrounds such as governments, research, academia. And I would like to show rapidly the result of this survey that I would like as well to share during and discuss during the Q&A. As you can see, most of the people basically say that they, 93%, almost 93% say that they interact with data. But then when we really asked how much they know about open data, there is a little bit more, the answers were a little bit different, and we had basically, most of the people were saying that they would like to have more insight, even if they have already the knowledge. And we had 33% of the respondents that they say that they really lack of deeper understanding. So you could see that there is a difference between working with data, knowing data, but when we ask specifically about open data, you can see that the results are kind of different. As well, one other question was, what are the main challenges that you encounter when you work with open data? And most of the people were answering data access, followed by data management. Of course, if we disaggregate this data, we have different stakeholders, such as policymakers, journalists. For instance, for journalists, the main challenges were related to data visualization. So what this can bring to us, that of course needs as well are different according to the different stakeholders. But in general, there is a common thread that says that data access and management are the main issue. Just to share other preliminary results, our interest in terms of capacity development in this group is really to promote existing and providing as well with or sharing information of training courses that are now happening in the field of open data. We've been asked them to our survey if they ever take part in any training on capacity development of data, and the majority actually responded no, 58%. And when we asked if they weren't interested in the future to take part on a training open data, we had 96% of respondents say yes. So yes, there is an interest, and people want to know more about open data, and this is well one of the reason that we set up this capacity development. We think that capacity development is one of the key components to understand open data and use it for work, for each work, but specifically related to agriculture and nutrition. Again, there is a strong interest in, as I said, in data management regarding the trainings. And the learning approach, we, of course, when we ask what is your favorite learning approach, most of the people say face-to-face. So in conclusion, what we can say that as the key messages, we can see that the survey responses said that there is a strong need and demand to know more about open data and to be part of the capacity development initiatives. And of course, at the same time, we noticed that face-to-face is the favorite learning approach, though. The video approach as well was a second favorite option. So it's something that as well has an important role to play, even remotely. What we like to have from you as well is to understand if you agree on this analysis, if you have something else to share, if you think that we miss some points, or do you think there are further challenges, and will be very interesting, but we'll come back as well later on this point, if there is among this group on capacity development people like trainers or groups that are groups like trainers of training. So it would be interesting to know if some of you already has this experience in terms of trainers. I will leave the floor basically now to my colleague Suchith and Anand to speak more about why we propose to set up this group on capacity development. But as I say, the meaning is really we would like to promote open data knowledge, but as well to increase awareness on open data initiatives, innovation, and good practice. So if you are as well are aware of any courses of capacity development, please do share within the group, create a discussion. It's very important that we create this community where we share initiative, challenges, and good practices in terms of open data. And as I say, we try to promote capacity building that is online or even face-to-face. So anytime as well from your side you have any information, please share it with this group that until today we have 110 people registered. So you can see that it's a group that is growing. As I said, I will now pass the floor to my colleague Suchith that will talk more about this working group, and then afterwards we can open the floor to Q&A. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Suchith Anand, and I'm very happy to get this opportunity to talk to you all today and welcome you all to our GODAN webinar series as well as the GODAN Capacity Development Working Group. Okay, I want to start with this iconic image taken nearly 50 years back, and I want to show you this because you know, this image, even though it was taken from Apollo 8 in 1968, okay, and this image shows, you know, it's more than 50 years back, but you know, it also shows the what are the rapidly changes things happening in terms of population increase, climate change, everything, you know, in the just 50 years. And if you think about in 1968, our total population was around 3.5 billion, and today we have more than 7 billions, more than doubled, and of that 300 million people suffer from hunger and malnutrition. So in the next 50 years, you know, we have, you know, according to the predictions, you know, we have more than 10 billion people in this planet. So how can we ensure that, you know, we have zero hunger for all? And we at GODAN believe open data plays a key role in this aim for zero hunger for all, and innovation is key. Everyone is an innovator, and innovation is fundamental to progress. Innovation is not only reserved for scientists or big companies or big laboratories, but it's for everyone, from farmers to students. So we at GODAN believe open data in agriculture and nutrition will play a key role in rapidly accelerating innovation in agriculture and nutrition, with the goal for zero hunger for all. And capacity building plays a key role in this. Through this capacity building working group, we are working to promote open data knowledge, increase awareness of various open data initiatives, innovations, and good practices. And we do this in the aim to be inclusive. We want to be very inclusive in this capacity building activities. So we look for activities not only from universities and academics, but you know, from all levels. And we want to include people even without formal education in these activities. And we believe in empowerment. We want to make sure the capacity building is aimed for empowering at all levels and lowering the barriers and make sure there is we can bridge the digital divides. And we want to aim to spread awareness on the various available resources that we have. But you know, we want to do this by working with others. You know, so we want to build partnerships and synergies with like-minded organizations. So what we really hope today is to not only welcome you all, but also, you know, welcome you all to contribute and to work together so that we can build ideas for how to create maximum impact for capacity development. So there are many reasons why you know, all of us should join for this working group. on capacity development and be part of a global community and benefit from sharing ideas and experiences. We want to make this all the materials we have developing to be freely available, all these resources, so everyone can make use of it. And there are a lot of activities we have planned and we have already done, from hands-on workshops on different themes. So we welcome ideas from the community on on these topics as well. So webinars are one of these instruments we are trying to launch to expand these capacity building activities. So again, we welcome ideas and inputs on from everyone on the different topics that we can have these webinars in the future. But we also do think tank meetings and a lot of other activities like how to make data easily understood by the general public with things like storytelling. And we are launching a lot of student competitions, student projects, and I will briefly summarize some of them today as well. So there are a lot of opportunities for everyone to be engaged in the capacity development activities that we are starting. So how to join? It's very simple. It's open to all. You have to just join this mailing list as a starting point. So please just fill very basic details, and you are subscribed to a mailing list. So through that, you are connected to a global community, and you can share your ideas. You can ask questions. You can volunteer your ideas and inputs to this capacity development activities. So there are some examples I want to share on how we can do that, and this is one example that we did with our partners in Kenya. 4 months back, we ran a GODAN Agri-GIS workshop and think tank at the Regional Center for Mapping and Resources and Development at Nairobi. And obviously, this is one of the themes. Geodata is one very important theme, as André was talking in his presentation, showing how satellite data has been used and all this geospatial data. So this particular think tank and hands-on workshop we organized at the RCMRD for this purpose. It was a 2-day event, and RCMRD is the Regional Center for Mapping of Resource and Development. It is a organization which was established through the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa and the African Union in 1975. It has over 20 member states spread across Eastern and Southern Africa, and their mission is also to promote sustainable development through generation, application, and dissemination of geo-information. So we are very happy to partner with them for this workshop. So it was the aim was to bring together colleagues from universities, academia, NGOs, to all come together, share their ideas, and have hands-on workshops. In the workshops we did, it was all the tools were also provided, or we used free and open tools. So not only we were trained the staff, but we were able to give them away the software as well, so they can have full empowerment, so they can make sure they can make use of these tools for their research or education or training programs later as well. So all these tools are available through our capacity building working group. So we welcome you all to make use of these. And there are a lot of training programs through our collaborators globally, which are made available. From this one example from the geospatial domain by our colleagues in the US. A lot of teaching materials are already there, all in Creative Commons license for those who are interested to learn. You are more than welcome to make use of these resources. So that's again a key strategy of our capacity building, is to make available training materials which other researchers or lecturers can reuse as per their needs. So these materials can be reused as anyone wishes. So what I really hope is, if you have ideas to run these training programs in your organizations in Asia or Africa or Americas, please contact us, and we can discuss ideas to run these kind of workshops locally in different areas. So this example will hopefully give you some ideas of how this was done. So I want to show another example of how we want to engage, especially with the student community. GODAN, in partnership with NASA, we are launching the NASA GODAN Innovation Challenge through the NASA Europa Challenge competition. So this is open to all students everywhere. So if you have a good idea on how you can use your technologies or use your skills for for local farming challenges, please join this challenge. The website links is provided here. It is organized jointly with NASA through this Europa challenge, and it's a great opportunity to bring in a lot of ideas. And I want to just show you one example from which was from 2014, which was fully focused on the food security aspect, an application developed by specifically for targeting the locust for the Food and Agriculture Organization. So this is a good example of how geo tools can be used for different kind of aspects for food security. So I really hope more students all over the world will join the NASA GODAN challenge for food security this year, and we have prizes also allocated for this. So 1,000 euros in total for the best students who win this challenge, and it's open for all students across the world, and we will make sure all participating student teams will get certificates from both NASA and GODAN for their participation. So please share this competition with your colleagues and students globally. And we hope these students and these competitions will encourage more people and more ideas. As I told in the beginning, innovation is for everyone. It's not only for big scientists or scientific organizations. It's for students and farmers and everyone. And we want to lower these barriers so that we all, as a community globally, can think of new ideas and how we can use open data to help farmers globally. So André, in his presentation, showed the importance of a lot of these open data, as well as how to. And what I want to now show is, how we can make these kind of data easily understood by all for better decision makings. And space and time are very important factors to add context to a lot of these big data. Big data, there is lots of data, but how do we make sense of data? So we again have a lot of free and open tools to help make sense of this data in very simple ways for everyone, so that people can really make use of this data for informed, actionable intelligence and decision making. So through the GODAN Capacity Building Working Group, we are planning to make these kind of tools easily accessible for everyone, and this is very important for Sustainable Development Goals monitoring over time, so that we can get a track of what is happening globally as well. So finally, I want to conclude by again welcoming you all to this global initiative, and welcoming specifically to this capacity development efforts worldwide. So please join our mail list, and also let your colleagues know of this initiative and welcome them to the working group as well. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Suchith, for your presentation. If you agree, now we actually open the floor. So we had already one question from one of our participants. So I heard here, David, would you like to ask your question? I see that you write it, so we're gonna ask now, David, if you, okay.
Hi there.
Hi, David.
Hi, Zara.
Please go ahead.
Sure, thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation by all three participants. My question, and if I might, I can. There are two that I posed, both related but separate. Who is responsible for setting the open data agenda? In particular, who is deciding what data is valuable and what data is not valuable? And to sort of give that some context, obviously there's an awful lot of data out there, but ultimately not all of it's valuable. And I put that in the context of not every problem that we are trying to solve is worth solving. And again, that's not to put down or make small any of the problems that we're facing, but actually some problems ultimately aren't worth solving for various reasons. So who is prioritizing the problems that we're trying to solve, and who is making the decision as to what data is valuable, so that we in terms of our collaboration, are focused on the data and the problems that are ultimately going to make the most impact.
Thank you, David, for your question. Maybe André or Suchith, if you want to answer this question.
Sure. If Suchith allows, I would like to say a few things. I think this is a very valid question. How do they say? The true value of the data is in the eye of the beholder, in the sense that there's a couple of things that happen. Open data is by definition a decentralized structure, a decentralized way to store data. So there's no central point that steers, data going one way or another, even though some entities have more data under their control than some others. But to make a long story short, I would say that in general, data is generated with a specific purpose in mind, to solve or to address, to contribute to address a specific problem, and which may not be of interest to everyone, but be of interest to whoever is generating that data. So that's one. And second is that there's a lot of collateral data that is generated as well. The typical example is if you're in country X and you decide to do a survey to find out how much cotton is being grown in your country, and you send people in the villages to ask what people are growing, while your surveyors are there, they're likely to ask more than, do you grow cotton? They're likely to ask, well, who lives here? How many people? Do you have another? So there's a lot of collateral data which may not have so much value for the immediate purpose of gathering the data, but that is collected at the same time. That is why one of the many reasons why we're promoting open data, because data that you generate that may not be of direct use to you may be of importance to someone else. So that's one thing. The second thing I want to say is that there is an incredible quantity of data out there. Last time we made a count, somebody asked us how many open data sets are available just now. And within a few minutes, we came to 500,000 data sets. And I'm sure it's still only a fraction of what's available down there. So, but obviously, if only because of the sheer numbers, they're not all useful to everyone, but they're useful to a whole lot of different entities. And the combination of this data may find use that hasn't been explored yet. So it's a very complex question you've asked there, but a very good one.
Well, thank you for that. Can I just add then to the question? One of the things that we are seeing a lot is people starting, and this is really the motivation for the question. We're seeing a lot of people working with data, but not being able to unlock the value of that data, find the value of that data. And in particular, we work with commercial organizations, many of whom are on the west coast of the States, who don't have a business model because they started with the data, then they started with the technology and ended up in this place of technology chasing a problem, as opposed to starting with a well-defined problem and then using data and technology to solve that problem. That's really the genesis of the question. How do we avoid a similar foray in our efforts together?
I don't want to monopolize the microphone, but I find your questions very interesting, so I'll just dare throwing in elements of response there. We in GODAN, I cannot speak for everyone, but we're in GODAN, we're speaking to a lot of donors, governments, but also international donors as well, which are aware of this problem, which is compounded by the fact that still today to some extent, there's a tendency by some research organizations or researchers to be on the constant need for funding, because that's how they survive. So oftentimes there's a temptation to go for funding rather than for the problem, which may or may not be so attractive to donors. So there's a mismatch at times there. But you're very right to say that research in general, or the generation of data, should start by the problem and not by the data and then finding a problem that would match whatever data or information has been generated. So this mismatch is there, and many people are aware of it. we're trying to encourage tackling it, discussing with donors so that they, discussing with the recipients also, that they be better at promoting problems that do deserve research but maybe have not received enough attention, and discourage them from receiving or taking funding just because it's available, because it distracts from the real issues in addition to being a waste of money.
Thank you, and sorry for equally dominating the questions.
No, imagine. Actually, thank you very much. We have also a further question, André, that only you though can answer. You were talking about GODAN, and there is a question from one of our participants that asks if it's possible to join GODAN as well as an independent. He's a scientist, working organization. And as well, can organization with the status of legal entity of public law join GODAN? This is the question.
Thank you. We have a very wide range of organizations that have joined GODAN, going all the way from governments to very small NGOs and the whole range in between, research organizations and others. But initially, GODAN was designed to be a forum for organizations, but the traction for data, knowledge, and exchanging knowledge is so big that we receive a lot of requests from, like the one you just mentioned earlier, and I see two ways where we're trying to address or help address that. One is when we organize seminars or webinars such as this one, but seminars or gatherings on different subjects around the world, participants are welcome to attend. For instance, in New York, which was our biggest meeting, I would say, there was a little less than 1,000 people there, and they were not all organizations. There were a lot of people that came there as individuals because they were interested by one or another topic that was presented there. So that's one way. The second way is that we're trying to overhaul our website now to allow those that would like to support the movement, but that may not be part of an organization, that may just be an individual, to be able to register as such. It's not yet in place, but we're thinking about it because it's an important element. And the third is this person who wrote the question, even if he or she is part of a very small organization, I would encourage him or her to mobilize the colleagues and try to join in, because no matter how big or small you are, you always have something to bring to the discussion, and we'd like to have your contribution as well. Sure,
yes, indeed. Thank you, André. I agree with you. I mean, of course, what is very nice of GODAN, as you also underlined, that you can join as an organization or government, but even individual, there are many opportunities, such as participating in conferences that you organize worldwide, or even webinars that you can attend. So thank you for this. And then,
sorry, Isaura, I forgot to mention one thing. I just made a reference to the overhaul of our website. Now we're going to version 3 of our website in the next couple of months. And one of the things we're going to do is to list down, because we have it internally, but we haven't been good enough, I think, in terms of promoting all the events that are of interest to open data, those that we're involved in, but even those that we're not involved in, because we can only do so much, but that could be of interest to others. So by taking a look at our website, you may find that there is an interesting event taking place in your neighborhood in the near future, and attend it, and you'd be certainly most welcome.
Thank you. Thank you again, André. Then I see there is a question, 2 questions from Jacques Drolet. So please, Jacques, go ahead with your question.
Well, thank you very much, Isaura, and thank you, André, thank you, Suchith. Very agreeable presentation so far. I'm trying to make a sense of all the documents I read so far and discussions of the Capacity Development Group. And to me, it seems that it would be important to, because of the complexity of everything, which you would probably all agree with, to try to determine some general themes. And what I see so far is a group that could be called training for the existing information. So that is GIS, that is capacity development for standards and interoperability. Then there is training for the information for specific target groups like journalists and growers. But then I see a completely different type of training, and that is the training to use the open data, which I think will be the motor to propel GODAN and whoever wants to promote this open information, that would be the motor for the motivational motor. If people know how to use that and what it can give to them, that will be for me the game changer. And another aspect of another theme would be to make critical data available. It's very nice what's already available, but if we have critical data that is not available, what are we going to do to make it available? And my last theme is training for change. There are domains like I'll have to talk about my own field, the regulatory world of plant protection. It's absolutely in a globally inefficient mode because of lack of harmonization across the board and data protection. How can we train people so that we move toward a sustainable world? And that will ask for change. So the training for change. So just to back up, I see a general team training for sharing the information, be it for growers, journalists, training for specific tool like GIS. Then I see training to use the open data, which will be the motor. Then I see training, making critical data available, and training for change. There, I'm done. Sorry for talking so long.
Thank you. Yes, no, I can imagine you actually. I think you were referring anyway to this. If you can see the action plan, GODAN action plan on capacity development, and you're totally right. Our just to set up a little bit the scene, in the context of this project, we have 3 different thematic topics that we developed. The first one is related to weather data. The second is global nutrition, and the second is land data. So how specific capacity development wants to target this, to approach these 3 themes. We have 3 approaches that we basically develop. This first one is e-trainings. So we are now developing a modular training courses that in collaboration with FAO, is FAO that basically is putting together this online course that afterwards will also be shared, and you will be welcome to participate, register to this modular course, online modular course. Then we also foresee face-to-face training, but this, as I said again, with a focus of training trainers, basically, groups of trainers. And the third one is of self-learning. One of our approaches to develop offline application in order to reach most of the audience. In terms of the categories, as you were referring, we identified basically this persona that you can see here, that are farmers, intermediaries, extensionists, policymaker, private sector, and user researcher. In terms of these categories, we think that specific intermediaries are the ones that can help to catalyze this change. We've been seeing already doing some face-to-face training during the inception phase of the project that targeting from journalists to media practitioners that can really help to have a change in the public. I give a really small example. just to make you understand. In the African continent, there is this comprehensive African program that is called GAD that you might have heard. And one of the targets is reaching 6% of the budget allocated to agriculture. This is a very big commitment from African governments, and specifically for the ones that signed GAD. And there is now a strong commitment to make sure that what is being pledged in the international arena, such as GAD, are really implemented and follow up. So journalists, in this case, for their stories, using open data, using data sets that are open or even that are available through different portals such as Faustet, can produce stories that afterwards can reach the public and can really build awareness about open data and the use in agricultural nutrition. So we think that the change can be developed at different stages, starting from familiar, but even for policymakers that sometimes are missing the vast approach or the more holistic approach where they can use open data in their job. So from my point of view, of course, there are a lot of work that can be done in this field, but we would like specifically for capacity development, we really try to target specifically the policymakers and intermediaries, because we think, and of course researchers, that they are the ones that in the long term that can really create a change.
Maybe I can add a couple of things. I think Jacques' question is very good, and it points out to the breadth of the need to increase capacity in relation to open data. You made an allusion basically to a number of these different areas, ranging from regulatory to data journalism, because we need there are many problems in making use to data. First, people need to find it. Second, they need to be able to understand it. And third, they need to be able to explain it. And then they need to be able to use it either for policies or to develop applications or other forms of usage. In GODAN, we're involved in a number of these different things. For instance, now we're hope to start a training of trainers on a regional basis in Africa to help senior technicians increase their capacity to extract data, be it satellite data or data from different shapes, forms of structures of databases, so that they can make sense out of it. We're also working with journalists. We like to push for data journalism, so etc., etc. So it's a very broad topic. So indeed, it's a challenge there is in GODAN action. You can't do everything, but you have to focus where the most burning needs are, and then grow from there. Maybe we'll end up with a number of different groups that will focus on these different clientele type of clients, actually, which have different needs, I would say. And last but not least, I was going to say the lower end of the scale. It's not lower or higher, but another way we also help is encouraging hackathons, which is also another way to make use, to encourage especially the young generation to make use of open data. But the horizon is very broad, as Jacques mentioned over there. So, and that's why we need all the capacity that we can to really chip in and get the whole movement to go forward.
Thank you, André, for completing this. I think your inputs. I see as well there is a question now. Stefan put it right regarding capacity development in data mining and how to use open source technologies. We'll not, as far as I know, we are not specifically on data mining, but as I said, we are now developing this curriculum on open data, general use on open data, and it's going to be ready by the end of the summer. So in there as well, you will have modules regarding how to access and managing data. So the moment that this course, online course is ready, and of course is free to everyone, you can register, and there will be a specific modules on topics such as data access, data management, and so forth. I don't see any other question for now. So I will say just what are the next steps. As I said, this was just the first webinars, one of the first webinars. So the other webinar that we want to do will be more targeted, I would say, more oriented, and for this we'll need your help. So if you have a specific, after the end of this webinar, there will be a general survey, very short, 3 questions, where we ask to you which other topics you would like to approach in the following webinars. So if it's data access, data, or a specific other topic, please suggest to us. We had already some suggestions regarding the capacity development action plan. If you have others, please, you can also put in the IGAD that I shared, the link, if any suggestion. And we're also looking for networks of trainers on open data that can support our work. So as we see, this is just the beginning, so we'll continue to our discussion through the platform, and we're really looking forward to your suggestion. So I will just leave the floor for the conclusion to André Suchith. And from my side, I already thank you, all of you, for your participation. And we're really looking forward to continue to work with you. André, Suchith, if you want to say the last words before we close.
Yes, I can only support what you said. Thank you very much to all those who attended this webinar. I hope it gives you a little bit more of an appetite to push this agenda forward, because we need to innovate, and innovation comes from all of us. So that's the spirit of this webinar, and we hope that you're going to go away from this with this message in mind and help advocate and share for a global energy towards addressing the global food security issue through innovation. Thank you very much to all of you and to the organizers.
Thank you, André. Thank you. I don't know if it's Suchith, yes?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Isaura, and everyone who joined today's webinar. It is a really important initiative for us, this capacity development. We believe capacity development is very fundamental pillar for open data expansion. So we want everyone to be engaged with us and contribute ideas. So please join our mailing list. If you have any idea, any ways to contribute or any new ideas, please just send an email, and we will make sure we follow up that with you. So thanks again, Isaura, and everyone, for giving us this opportunity to have this first webinar. So we hope to be in touch with you in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you all for the participants, and we will inform you with the follow-up email regarding the upcoming webinars and topics. Thank you all. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.